Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So, I watched the Toni Braxton biopic on Lifetime Network, and overall, the movie was just okay, you know? I didn't hate the movie, but I also didn't really love the movie either. It was just one of those movies that was just there. It just kind of exists, and you watch it. You know, something to do when you're stuck indoors because of the blizzard. And I'm a huge Toni Braxton fan. I love Toni. I really enjoy her entire catalog. I grew up on her. She is a part of my childhood era. So I kind of went into this movie hoping that it would be, I had an idea for what I thought it would be, and it didn't happen, But overall the movie was just okay. Some of the things they did well. The casting was half and half, but the good aspects of the casting, I think it was a great idea to have Gavin Houston play Babyface. He was a very convincing Babyface. He actually kind of looks like him a bit too. So he did that very well. Debbie Morgan as the mother of Evan Braxton, she did that. She was great at that. That was an excellent portrayal of the mother. They had Tamar casted right, of course. The old girl had Tamar down to a T. That was Tamar all the way. Right, excellent as far as Tamar. Then when we get to the lead, Lex Scott Davis, I think is her name. Overall, all the elements were there. I think she's a gorgeous, attractive woman. She, the makeup and the stage costumes and stuff, they had all that right. But I just didn't get a Toni Braxton vibe from her even watching it. Honestly, to be quite honest, as I was watching it, I was like, you know what? They could have had her play Aaliyah in that Aaliyah biopic. That would have been more convincing. Like, my thing about it is, Toni Braxton, if I could describe her personality and just the essence she gives off, Toni Braxton, to me, if I could describe her in 2 words, would be like resilient jazz. I know she's an R&B singer, but resilient jazz is what I would say represents Toni Braxton. There's just this essence and elegance about her that's just so... I could go on for days about Toni Braxton, but long story short, I didn't really quite get that from the actress that was playing her. I think a good part that they did do was have Toni Braxton actually sing and use her live vocals and re-record all of her songs to kind of fit with the movie. So using Toni Braxton's vocals helped to, add some character to the film. But it was just something about the lead actress, I wasn't really convinced. And then I felt like a lot of the plot was so rushed. There were so many points where they just jumped here and jumped there, and it was like everything just, I don't know. But one part about the casting they also needed to work on was, I don't know why they had the Faith Evans look-alike for Pebbles, because 1, Pebbles never had blonde hair, and 2, I didn't think the Pebbles scenes were really that necessary. It was like they had 15 minutes dedicated to Pebbles. And I was like, you could have talked about Toni getting her whole imagery makeover and all that other stuff in like 2 minutes and move right along. I feel like it was a scene that wasn't needed. And then when we get to Towanda, nothing against the person they had playing Towanda, but whoever did the costumes and everything else, I don't know why y'all had Towanda. Y'all ain't had to do Towanda like that. We were not on the set of Rosewood. This was supposed to be about the Braxtons, It was like they had one scene where they had Towanda literally looking like the crackhead cousin that you can't leave by himself at grandma's house because when everybody goes to the store, they're going to steal everything and then try to help you look for it. Like, I was like, don't do that to Towanda. That ain't right. So I kind of side-eyed that whole aspect of it. And I think the movie came off a bit rushed as far as the storyline. They jumped from here to there, and it was like every time you blinked, they had skipped 5 or 6 years. I was like, they're gonna be on Braxton Family Values in the first 20 minutes of the film. So there were some things that were rushed. Like even there's a scene where Carrie's still kind of courting Toni Braxton. That's the husband. And now, mind you, the scene just before, she had just talked about how she was broke and she owed $4 million, this, that, and the third. The next scene shows him, they're outside. Somebody calls the phone, he takes the phone and throws it because he's trying to show that, he loves her and he wants her. And I'm like, now she just said she was broke in the last scene. How you going to throw her phone? Now she got to wear the same gown to 2 different award shows. Okay? And like, that's what I got because you sat there and rushed everything. So when it came to the relationship with her and the husband, it kind of came off rushed. So even when they got divorced by the end of the film, it was like, oh, okay, well, it didn't really seem like I had no chemistry anyway based on how it was portrayed in the film. Because the thing about a Toni Braxton story is there's so many stories and elements to tell because there's been a lot to happen in her life. And I think because the movie was only probably an hour and 20 minutes once you take away the commercials and everything, they had to cram so much in a short time span. And it was just like there were so many things missing. It was almost like either capture the career musically or focus on the personal life. But you can't mix both together and expect to have a great product in an hour and 20 minutes. And I think that's where they messed up, because at the end of the day, when you talk about Toni Braxton's musical impact, it wasn't captured in this film. Like, Toni Braxton was a machine when I was growing up. I mean, there were a bunch of machines that were all out at the same time, but Toni Braxton was huge, especially within the lane that she was in. And I don't think the movie really captured that. Yeah, they did a brief mention of, oh, this sold this many records, and oh, this was a hit, but you didn't really get the musical aspect. And I think the movie just needed like 3 or 4 really strong musical performances in the film. There were some in there, but it wasn't like a full song. It was like she'd sing a verse and jump to the climax and it would fade out, and that was it. But I think to really capture the essence of what Toni Braxton did musically, especially in the 90s, like, she is one of the top sellers of the 90s. You really needed to capture what she did musically, and I think the imaging, there needed to be scenes of pandemonium and people like, you needed all of that, and you needed just a collage of her just at award show, just taking award after award after award after award, and, you know, fashion photo shoots, and like, you needed all that so people could understand that Toni Braxton was a huge artist. If you're somebody who was born in 2000 and you watch this, you're still going to go around thinking that somebody like an Ariana Grande had a bigger impact than Toni Braxton based on what was put out there. Like, that's what I got from it. I didn't see the big, massive diva that Toni was at the time. You know, I didn't get that. It was briefly mentioned. Just the surface was just lightly scratched. You know, I could say the TLC movie almost kind of had that issue on some occasions with them rushing, but because they put so much focus on the music and the music video elements that they added in the performances, you could still walk away from that movie and say, okay, TLC, they were something to take serious back in the day. If this movie were put in like a time capsule, and 1,000 years from now, a person watches it and it's like, who's Toni Braxton? You're not going to come away from that movie saying, okay, well, this is a woman who had like a sophomore album that sold more than their debut album, after the debut album sold like 10 million copies. This is somebody who was like the head, the say-all be-all at the record label. You don't get all that, you know? It was just kind of there. But overall, it's kind of just an expectation you have when there's a movie that's kind of rushed. It's made for TV, and that's not giving it a justification, because there's some really good made-for-TV movies. Like the Natalie Cole story was really well put together when it came out years ago. The Temptations movie was a really well put together one. The TLC one was it was alright. They kind of rushed a lot of that too. But overall, it's just, I think my biggest critique was, one, just I wasn't convinced with the actress that played Toni Braxton, and two, the plot line was so rushed, and they were trying to cram in so much that you missed so many important elements. There were albums that weren't even mentioned, so we skipped basically everything that happened from The Heat through the Libra album. We didn't even pay attention to. Yeah, they showed her perform, I guess, He Wasn't Man Enough for Me, but the Heat era, the More Than a Woman era, that would have been some great scenes there. Like, okay, the label's pissed because you're pregnant and now you can't promote your album, so we're just, you know, you can just scrap the whole thing, and, you know, for fine, I'll leave the label. All that could have been a great scene there. The Libra album with her, you know, switching labels, and now she's on the label that Aaliyah was once on, but there's a whole bunch of nonsense with that label and they still can't promote it, and, you know, all of that. I don't think they put enough emphasis on maybe what happened with her and the sisters, because there was so much more, I believe, that really happened with the relationships as far as the sisters, because, you know, the sisters came out with an album right before Toni Braxton dropped Secrets, but nobody really paid attention to that album, and it didn't do that well. I'm sure there were some conversations there and some fights about maybe them not always wanting to be her backup singers and going on tour, and all of them wanted to do different things, and there's so many things that, you know, that could have been there. But for what it was, it's, you know, the movie's based off of the book that Toni Braxton wrote. So it's kind of like, if you want the full scoop of everything, you just have to read her book, and you're going to get what you get when you go to Lifetime. So overall, like I said, the movie's a C.5. What else? There was something else I was going to say that I thought was really good. Oh, I think towards the end, capturing Toni Braxton, the person, as far as her story and just humanizing her, I think they did okay with that towards the end of the story. It kind of came together, because there was a whole 40-minute portion where it's just like, there's too much going on. Like, now, she done released Secrets, went bankrupt, got married, got divorced, and the kid got autism all in the same 40 minutes. Y'all doing too much. But towards the end, I think it kind of closed the gap. Everything kind of went full circle and kind of completed itself a bit. And I think it was a really good idea to have Toni close out the scene herself. You know, having a real Toni Braxton at the end of the film and playing the piano. And I think that was a clever way to end the film. I was like, you know what, okay, I'll take that, because I was wondering, where does the film end? Because, listen, by the time they had got to 2008, I was like, oh, there's still movie left? I thought, you know, usually a lot of the biopics kind of stop after a certain time period, and if there hasn't been a whole lot going on commercially, they don't really address it. But I like that they talked about Toni Braxton after her heyday. I know people will say, oh, she won her Grammy and she's still relevant. She is, but you know, it's a different day, different age. So I didn't mean for this to be that long, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. So share what you think about the film. I really think that if had they casted her to play that Aaliyah movie, it would have came off better. The script for that movie was still terrible. The movie was still going to be horrible, but she would have been a much more convincing Aaliyah. I think that's the vibe I got from her. Maybe not Toni, but yeah. So share your 2 cents, and that's it. I'm out. Subscribe.